So there are two big stories playing out in the Pakistan elections parallelly. You've got Nawaz Sharif and his daughter being arrested, a huge amount of political drama playing out, insisting on going back to Pakistan. And on the other side, you've got Reham Khan's takedown of Imran Khan, a book that's already a bestseller, but a book which is a scandal on every page. Joining us now, live from London once again, a woman who's now a best-selling author, and her books flying off the shelves, but also someone who seems determined on taking down her former husband, Reham Khan. Welcome once again to India Today. The last time we had you, we hadn't had an opportunity to actually read through your book. We were reading through what may appear in your book, but we hadn't got our hands on the book itself. This time, we've had a chance to go through a lot of the book. Your book, absolute scandal, Reham Khan, and it's already a bestseller. Are you delighted with the way things are going? Are you kind of just taken aback by the kind of feedback you're getting?
Thank you, Rahul. I think I was expecting both of the things. I was told by, and when I spoke to you last as well, I spoke to a couple of people, and I think I mentioned that I gave it to completely unbiased people because I was worried because it's my first book and I wanted it to be a good read. So I was, I gave it to a couple of sort of, unbiased, and people who don't know Imran and who don't know who I am and who don't know anything about, say, Pakistan, and they were really intrigued by the story, and so that was encouraging, and I was assured that it would be a bestseller before it came out. But of course, I'm not sure whether the intention or what my motivation has been in writing this book will be immediately understood, and I'm prepared for that. So much of the backlash actually is I was expecting a lot more, to be honest, and I was mentally prepared for this because I think there's just so much at stake.
That this is a takedown of Imran Khan, that you feel that he wasn't fair to you, and therefore right ahead of the big general elections in Pakistan, when Imran Khan thinks he has a chance to be Prime Minister, this is his former partner, just putting out all the dirty linen, all the bedroom secrets, throwing them out there in the public in an attempt to destroy his political career.
Well, there are two things about it. The first answer to a straightforward question, a straightforward no. So this was not my intention to destroy a person, my ex, and this is not the motivation is not to sort of, it's and then people will think that it is, and I don't really care. I think I couldn't care less what people think my motivation is. I know what my motivation is. It is certainly to warn people about the state of mind we are in when we go to vote. And I talk about my own experience that, knowing quite a lot of things, we still go into personal relationships, not once, but more than once, in a state of with our eyes open, with our eyes wide shut, I would say. And the same state of mind is of a voter also, because there's so much propaganda machinery at play. And so what I found this man to be, it's not so much his bedroom secrets, it's not a personal story, it is more to do with the fact that it's the hypocrisy of it all. So you say one thing to get the votes, but actually your reality is in stark contrast.
The one thing this book solves for me is the mystery on why Reham Khan bailed out on us. We were part of the team that invited you for an India Today event, and we were very excited about having you, and at the last moment you cancelled. Your book seems to suggest that Imran Khan didn't want you in India at the India Today conclave.
Yes, and I tell you in detail because, and I was mortified because I've never gone back on my word. If I promise somebody that I will be there, obviously this had been planned. The India Today, I think it was a female journalists talking about their careers. It was a very soft sort of event, and I had been invited back in May, and suddenly around a couple of weeks, maybe a week before the event, I just got a call from a couple of party people saying that Imran doesn't want you to go, and could you do a goodwill gesture and sort of say that you're not going? And I thought it was odd that he could have said it to me himself, but also I found it wasn't nice because I had to cook up an excuse, as many wives do, and so I cooked up an excuse, and it was because it had been advertised already, and so I talk about this, and these are some of the things that many women will relate to. That when your husband asks you to do something, sometimes you have to cover up. So you might have been told not to do this, but you cover up your bruises as well with stories of falling down the stairs. So we've all done that. Hopefully not all of us have done that, but many women will relate to that. And this is why post-divorce, the first thing I did was I asked my a friend of mine to make a call to India Today and apologize, because I felt really bad about this. And when I apologized, they said, well, we still want you to come. And so I did. And so, yes, I've given you every incident that I could remember, and I've given it to you. I have a very, very unforgivable memory, I think, to some, but I have related these incidents word for word, how it occurred and what happened.
There are many aspects of your book, Reham, that are generating huge curiosity in India. And one of the most scandalous parts is where you suggest that Imran Khan has Indian children. He does? How do you know? What do you know?
Well, I mean, you haven't read the book, that means, because I've told you the whole story about how it happened and how randomly he just throws it into the conversation. It wasn't something that I didn't go up to him and ask him, well, how many children do you have spread around the world? I didn't know that he had any. I didn't want to know that he had any. And so that information was volunteered to me, and was volunteered in a very frivolous and a very flippant fashion. I take parenting very seriously, and I see that as a privilege. I don't think that many people should be allowed to become parents, full stop, because I think that you need to have an aptitude and you need to take responsibility of your actions. But here was someone who seemed like just something flippantly mentioned in conversation, and I was shocked by it. And so I tell you the whole story exactly the way it happened. Now, is it true or not? But this is what Imran has told me. So, I mean, only he can, tell us where these children are. And apparently he was still in touch with at least a couple of them, because he told me the ages of the eldest at the time.
You're suggesting in the book that Imran leads a rather bizarre life. There's lots of talks of sex, drugs, rock and roll, illegitimate children. And you also seem to suggest that Imran always tended to portray women in unflattering light. You know, you narrate this one incident about Imran telling you about a Bollywood actress from the 70s whom he had an affair with, and how you found out later that details of the affair were completely the opposite of the story that Imran had told you.
And I think throughout the book, this is what I found out, that the stories that I'd heard from Imran, so I'd heard one story, so say for example, I'd heard one story pre-marriage to him, and then I heard the story again from him, which was, he confirmed and corroborated the story and the happenings, but the situation was completely different. And then post-divorce, and even through the marriage as well, people would tell me a different version of the story. So all of those things, the liaisons have obviously happened, but the people or the women in that situation tell a very different story. And most of them weren't very happy with the way they were treated. And so one of those stories, particularly of the Bollywood star, was it just happened randomly post-divorce. I was sitting somewhere, and I happened to be sitting with a very close friend of hers, and he pointed out that you do know that this is not the way it happened. Actually, she was financially very, very benevolent towards your ex, and I'd heard a completely different story. So, but I think that the reason I told you all of those stories are because all the things that he'd been saying to me about other women, if you think about it, I mean, I can only think of one lady that he never actually spoke too harshly about. But other than that, personal liaisons, he spoke very harshly about all of the people that he was in any sort of personal relationship with or any personal encounter with.
You also say in one part of your book that Imran Khan should take some lessons from Prime Minister Narendra Modi in India. What are the lessons that you believe that Imran Khan, the politician, could possibly draw from the political innings and career of our Prime Minister?
Well, you see, initially when I got married to him, this was the understanding. He was saying to me that I can't do this alone. I've never seen a woman like you. I've never met a woman like you. And I can't read all of these sort of, sheets of paper. You go through pages so quickly. You will read it for me. You will guide me. And foolishly, I fell for it. And so my motive was Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, a province that has been, that doesn't constitute a major share of the board, a province that has been used for all sorts of proxy wars, for grooming and nurturing militancy. And it's a province that I love dearly and I belong to. And because he was ruling in that province, I wanted him to perform, and I wanted him to govern better there. And I would say to him that now that the Dharna has failed, and you've seen that all of these plans of toppling the government and all of these things are not happening. Could you please perform here? You're still, I don't buy this argument that you've been working for a very long time, because you've not. And people take a lot of time to prove themselves with performance. So I would give a very extreme example of Modi, and I would say that despite his radical rhetoric and his baggage, because he performed for 10 years in Gujarat, and that's what we know. Obviously, sitting in Pakistan, we always see or hear about Modi being a better chief minister for the 10 years before he became prime minister. And that is what I would say, that look at Modi, despite all of that negative baggage, because he performed in the state of Gujarat, he was actually, paved the way for his ultimate premiership. So why can't you take lessons from people who have proved themselves with a long-term track record? I felt that it wasn't such a long time. And I would give him examples of Hillary Clinton also, because she was 67 and she was contesting. And I'd say, well, it's, you've not been doing it for that long, and there is no reason for you to give up. I think you need to perform, prove yourself at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then people will naturally vote for you. And to be quite honest, for me, him becoming prime minister wasn't, I couldn't understand what was this obsession with it also, because there is a lot to be said about integrity and the love and respect people have for someone.
Okay.
For example, the tables are completely turned now. Nawaz Sharif is the hero now in Pakistan, thanks to Imran. And Imran has lost quite a lot of credibility in the eyes of the voters, in the eyes of the general public, because of all of these acrobatics.
You've suggested in your book that Imran Khan, the politician, is a creation of the notorious former ISI chief, Lieutenant General Hamid Gul, a man who's much hated in India for sparking the Kashmir insurgency. What reason do you have, Reham, to believe that it is General Gul, the former ISI chief, who helped build Imran Khan's political career?
Well, I have, of course, General Hamid Gul saying that to me. I have Imran saying this to me. And generally, widely, this isn't a hidden fact in Pakistan. What I found odd was that when I got married to Imran, and when General Hamid Gul was threatening me face to face, and then I would go back to my husband-to-be and husband also about why is this man doing this, the lack of respect that Imran had for somebody who had created him, and his impression of General Hamid Gul wasn't very different to what the general public has as well, but it was obviously quite clear that, both of them were, I suppose, at least Imran was certainly using that appeal. I don't think that General Hamid Gul knew what Imran really thought of him, and he didn't think of him or had very fond terms for him. But then again, as you see through the book, Imran doesn't really think fondly or speak fondly of many people in his life.
The Pak elections are now around the corner, Reham, and Imran Khan is one of the central characters in this election. You spent so much time with him. What's your reading of Imran Khan, the politician's views on India? If he were to become, do you think he can become Prime Minister of Pakistan? If he does become Prime Minister of Pakistan, how would his India policy be different from that of Nawaz Sharif?
Completely different, in stark contrast. You see, I understand that a lot of people will see my comments as a bitter ex, but my concern is actually is far greater. I think that Imran is divisive. He has used every trick in the book just to get himself to the seat, and the powers that be at the moment, today as we speak, they're hell-bent is what I would use. This is the term I would use. They're hell-bent to get him into the Prime Minister's seat. I don't understand why. Because obviously what I know of him, I think they know a lot more about him, and they have a lot of evidence against him also. But I find that a very nerve-wracking experience, that that somebody is clearly not good for the country. I cannot understand why you would risk this scenario. Compared to Nawaz Sharif, what was Nawaz Sharif doing? I don't know him personally. I don't know much about his politics as well, because obviously I've not been in the household. I have no interaction with them, with the family at all. I don't know what they're thinking, but what we could see on the surface was, for example, that economically we were doing much better. Electricity was the biggest, energy was the biggest issue for our voters and our people. That was delivered. And the fact that and I think all parties now, be it Bilal Bhutto or be it Maryam Nawaz Sharif as well, the language that they use is not one of hate politics. I'm not sure what Maryam Nawaz's politics will be, but I can say with certainty that we have never seen hate politics or extremism and India bashing as part of their as part of their personal views. And I know many people who've spoken to them. And I think that there is a growing maturity in Pakistan also. And I think on both sides of the border, this is what we need to do with Imran. As I've said to you and clearly in many incidents, that whatever takes him to power, for example, right now, I don't really think that he has any power at all. He's doing he's doing someone else's bidding. So if violence is the way forward, which is, I mean, one of the biggest shocking things which has happened in the last week is him saying something that he doesn't really even have knowledge of. I mean, he's standing in a huge convention center and talking about Article 295A, and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He doesn't even know whether that's the Pakistan Penal Code or whether it's part of the Constitution. But he's saying all the things that he's being fed. And I'm sorry, that makes me very nervous about the fact that this person is going to lead the country. That's not the sort of leader Pakistanis want. India is not the concern. It's not that India is nervous about Imran. Pakistanis are nervous about someone like Imran. It doesn't even matter whether it's not Imran. Anyone like him is a serious concern for us.
Reham, one of the spooky things in your book is where you mention some voodoo around the house. You talk about how Imran rubbed black dal all over his body because some peer had told him that this would bring him good luck. Does the man who hopes to be Prime Minister of Pakistan believe in black magic and voodoo?
Well, I mean, it was bizarre because I had never, every time I'd be out of the house, every time I'd clean up the side table drawers, the beds, I would find these weird sort of things, and I had never seen them before. So I had no understanding that you're not meant to touch them or whatever you're meant to do. You see, as devout Muslims, we're not allowed to indulge in these dark practices. This is completely forbidden. It's not permitted, and it amounts to shirk. It amounts to seeking help from another power other than Allah. And so that is clearly against. He's standing up in jalsas talking about the fact that he's a devout Muslim, and he's talking about believing in Allah. But people who believe in Allah do not practice these things. And so repeatedly through the marriage, I would say to him that the staff was making fun of these things. It was embarrassing, because as a leader you must be of particularly in Pakistan, because you see they use morality to pick up votes, they use Islam to pick up votes, and this is hypocrisy to the extreme, where you are actually completely cheating the public. You are something else in private, and that was very. Not only is it, of course, for the liberals in our society and overseas as well, it's deeply disconcerting to see someone be so superstitious that he thinks that that he's cursed in some way, and that curse can be rubbed away because of using magic black lentils or taweez and amulets, and drinking special kind of food or consuming special kind of food or drink. That is bizarre, and that is very, very nerve-wracking for us. And recently I've heard that up until the elections, I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but a reporter recently said that he's seen not to consume food from anywhere outside until the elections. So the superstition is running really, really deep, and of course it is. I've seen it firsthand. It was disturbing then, and it's very disturbing as a Pakistani voter, as a Pakistani citizen. It's extremely disturbing now, because as I said, the powers that be seem to think that he's the best candidate, and God help us, I don't understand why they think that.
Now, Reham, Imran Khan has for the longest time had the image of being a lady killer. You say in your book that he has multiple gay partners. How's that playing out in election season in Pakistan? And what's your justification for talking about this kind of stuff in a book? That's very, very private. What happens between the sheets, shouldn't that just stay between the sheets?
Two things here. Again, the hypocrisy of it. You see, I have no problem with two consenting adults, hopefully single, doing what they want to do and doing it in their own time. But I think that if you are put yourself on a pedestal and profess to be a certain kind of moral character as opposed to others, and you waive this certification of Sadlik and Amin. I take an issue with that I think that that's completely hypocritical. You should not be doing that. And the other thing which is more concerning is the hashtag Me Too. You see, I think that the fact that you are giving positions to men or women in the party because you're taking sexual favors from them, or you're coercing them to have sexual relations with you, or you're taking money from them, or you're taking other kinds of, grocery help or cash flowing into the house, I think that's wrong. I think that's completely wrong. Party funding is one thing, but taking cash incentives from people to run your lifestyle, to run your habits, I think that's completely wrong. It is exploitation, it's nepotism, it is certainly sexual exploitation, and that is against meritocracy. That is against the fact that it's hugely hypocritical for a party that professes to be the movement for justice. Where's the justice in this? If one woman can sleep with you and another can't, and that woman gets the seat, I'm sorry, but that's a huge problem. I have a huge issue with it. So it's not a problem with the fact that, I perhaps could have. I'm not the sort of person who can look away from a cheating husband. But here the issue was not the fact that my husband was cheating on me or having illicit relationships with married women or doing things which are morally incorrect, particularly for Islamic Republic of Pakistan. The problem is where you mix business with pleasure, and those people who can do certain things for you get positions of power. That is the ultimate debate here.
Finally, Reham, have you heard back at all from Imran Khan? Do you know what your former husband thinks of this book? There's been a lot of talk about how they'll sue the life out of you, but all of that could possibly happen after the Pakistan election's over, and by then it may be too late. What feedback are you picking up?
I have not heard from him directly. I've had a lot of threats indirectly, which I've been telling you, and but I will certainly send a signed copy after Banigala. I think even there I durustayat, as we say. I think it's never too late to reform, and I think there's always time to ask Allah for forgiveness. There's also time to ask people for forgiveness. It's not nice to hurt people. It's not nice to be unfair to people. So I think a lot of people, I think he is answerable to a lot of people.
Okay.
Not me, because I have completely forgiven him. But I think that for the Pakistani voters, yes, he has a lot to answer for.
Okay, Reham, I'm not going to sit in moral judgment in what you've said and what you haven't. We leave it to everyone who's reading your book and watching this interview to decide what they make of Reham Khan and all the scandals she talks about in that new bestseller book of hers. Reham Khan, for joining us from London, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.